risk difference in percent. So then, other names. It is also called attributable proportion, attributable fraction, or attributable risk. 4 names for the same thing. Bit annoying, but let's go over what it is. So it lets you calculate the proportion of the outcome in the exposed group is actually attributable to the exposure. So like before, where we're talking where just risk difference, it's looking at, because the non-exposed also have an outcome, we're trying to find out what the true risk of having this exposure is. So it's the proportion of the disease in the exposed group that could be prevented by eliminating the risk factor in another format. So here is the calculation. It's exactly risk difference. Put a brackets around it and divide it by the exposed group. Now then, an example of this. This is the table that you're familiar with. Exposed area A and non-exposed area B. Got our risk per one person. Got our R1 and R0 to the left. This is the R1 and this is the R0 in the calculation. So we plug the numbers in and we get the result of 0.6177. So, what do the numbers mean? Right then, so in our study, so the calculation up here is the whole thing. So, in our study, the incidence of the exposed was 10.5 per 100 people. That's what it was. Of our 10.5 per 100 people, or 10%, 6.48%, or 6.5 per 100 people, can be attributed to the risk factor of being in area A, or whatever the risk factor was. The other 4%, or 4 per 100, was due to an inherent risk. Consequently, 62% of the cholera cases in the exposed group can actually be attributed to being exposed in the first place, when taking the inherent risk of the non-exposed into account, because they're already getting cases, so we're taking the inherent risk of the non-exposed into account here. So this is based on the numbers of cholera in the unexposed. However, there are multiple ways to calculate this. At the top, we've got AP, which is attributable proportion, which is the same as risk difference in percent. Now, we chuck our total in there. We don't even need the total, because you should be able to remember the relative risk, or risk ratio. So that is the R1 divided by the R0. The result is 2.6158. We plug it into the calculation of the attributable proportion, risk difference percent, attributable fraction, and attributable risk. This gives us 0.6177, which is 62%, which we're familiar with from the other calculation. That, my friends, is risk difference.